Alfie, the boy, Jorah Volin, he's standing at your bedside, and he's been serving you and looking after you while you've been sick since Sir Martin passed away. He was his squire. And now he thinks he's your squire, and he's been doing everything that he can to make you impressed. He's very impressed that you are wounded from a battle. He thinks that's pretty amazing and exciting, and has asked you many times about it. But currently he like he's delivered some messages. 2 days ago he brought you the bundle of notes that you had asked for, and then yesterday he rode around to the various families with Salty Tom and like delivered the message that when you are better they should be ready. And he's just come back from the kitchens at your urging, and he's like standing at attention. Can you make a quick perception check for me? No worries. Okay. Yeah, he's doing something unusual, but you can't quite place it. He says, well, my lord, she said she doesn't really know about sieges or nothing, but she says that a man needs 4 pounds of food a day, and she said if you want to stretch that to 2 pounds, they'll be hungry, but they'll live. And then she said that's maybe 200 pounds of food a day for the people in the Tor, in a siege. And he like lets out a breath, like he remembered that exactly the way that she said it, and sort of stands there waiting for you to tell him something. Yeah, 100 would include like all of the servants and staff. It would include like the people from the surrounds coming in, like people who live right outside the walls, and like craftsmen and stuff like that. You could probably cut that down pretty significantly if you just wanted to protect like the family and the fighters. Yeah, yeah, you could probably cut that down then to like half that, if not more. So that'd be, yeah, significantly less. the boy is like looking like trying to figure it out, and he's like waiting. And he's like trying to remember if he was asked to ask that, or if he just should have asked that, or if he's forgotten it. But clearly he doesn't know the answer. And he like looks down at his shoes and he says, "Well, I brought you this." And he like reaches into his pocket, which is like the thing that you missed, and he pulls out this like battered pastry with jam in it, and like hands it to you. And he says, "I thought you might now tell me what happened with your foot, about the battle, or your first battle, if you want." And then he like reaches into his pocket and pulls out another smaller pastry and like sits on a chair, like he's been expecting this reward that you haven't promised him. Yeah, yes, Lord. And he like fumbles around and like it would. I mean, it's generous to call it a sword. Like he's a kid still, but he'll like hand it to you without pulling out the blade, just the scabbard, and hand it to you. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. He like fumbles with it and then hands it to you the proper way. Yeah, it's nice. It's like of decent quality. Like he's Godfrey Vollin's son, and so like he's, as opposed to like the other squires, like pretty wealthy and has like nice gear. He goes like this and like puts his arms up and like in the way that like kids will do, and like shows off his muscles. He's not particularly muscly, but he's also like 10. Yes, Lord, I will. And then he like excitedly grabs the sword and like runs off out, and you can immediately hear like the dum, dum, dum. He will be exhausted in like a minute because he's just like hammering at it, but he's trying to impress you. Yeah, so it's been like a pretty tedious week for you, Alfie. Like you've spent a lot of time lying in this bed and like recovering, and in the meantime, like the maester has like put in stitches, and the wound is mostly closed. It's still very painful, and the bones are not properly set, but it's no longer like bleeding, and it looks like it's not going to become infected, which is a blessing. And you know, another day will go by. And the maester will come and like you'll be kind of half asleep and you'll feel like the poking at your foot.
Somewhere else in the room. I've been paranoid in myself. When I've had delirious sleeps, I started getting paranoid, and I've taken a few sort of defensive. I leave a rolled up sort of bundle in my bed, to in the dark to where my body would be, and move to another bed, and so if anyone sees where I go to bed, I'm not there under the cover of darkness as they approach that place, and that's is the basic. I'll also have what's the name of the Volin boy?
Jorah.
I'll promise him an extra bit of food if he manages to sneak up on me and get his blade against some of either my neck or my chest, without me being aware of him, and I'm sort of I'll get on the lookout for him.
The maester seems to be quite a quiet man, despite the jangling of his chains. He does seem to have this ability to kind of appear. Maybe he has a special link on his chain, some sort of magic, who knows. But he's like poking at the foot and he says, it's looking quite a bit better, actually. Honestly, the rate at which you're healing seems unusually fast. There's no infection, and that's good news. It'll be painful to walk on for a long time, and you'll likely give you trouble in cold weather. But the risk of infection is gone, and the wound is closed, and I'm going to take the stitches out today. And so you'll be discharged.
He bounds out of bed and hugs the hugs the maester. You've done me well. You've done me well. Here, here. I reach out and sort of look through my belongings as something to reward him with, and don't find anything other than the bit of sweet meat pie that Jorah gave me yesterday, and hand it over to him. Here, when you get a free moment, taste that and munch down on that. And well, I owe you more than that, but well done, Maester.
Lord Alfstan, that does not mean that you should go around fighting or running or jumping. Walking on it could reopen the wound, so no strenuous activity. Do you understand me?
No, it won't be strenuous, he says. Boy, where's my armor?
If I see you back here, I'll have to speak with Lord Wyrick about this. But he's got this grin on his face.
Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. I feel fine. We're made of. The plates are made of sturdy stock. Things that can bring down a lesser man. It's like a scratch on the slate. If you can't crack us, you can't even scratch us.
He sort of like shakes his head at the madness of Northmen, and sort of nods and like, we'll take the stitches out, and like wrap up your foot, and leave you with this like finely made crutch that he obviously has had someone make, which I imagine you'll immediately discard when he's not in eyeline, but nonetheless, he leaves it with you, and like once has like he's dealt with the wound, will begin jangling his way back towards the castle.
I think I'll take the crutch, but I'll How long till the time that I've scheduled to visit the hunter families?
Like another few days. I think you would have been told like today the stitches would come out.
Okay.
And I think you would have probably given it like another day or two beyond that.
Then I'll just go down to the training where they're training the recruits, and start sort of supporting whoever's training them, and just adding a bit of Slate authority and pressure onto their training to make sure that they're doing the job well. And
cool. All right. At the scene at the Foxden, you've been walking around, Jeremy, sort of like looking for clues of who these people might be, like walking around and picking through equipment and things like that. And it looks like most of it is like castle forged, though the designs like don't strike you as like being from around here. It's kind of hard to quantify why. There is a smith's mark on all of the short swords, and they each have a short sword. It's a symbol of a hand with the ring finger missing, and you think like most smiths would have like a symbol like this, but this one is not familiar to you. There's a huge amount of stuff that's been piled up that you've taken from these people, as like most of the dead were outside of the camp, as then like most of them rushed, and you're now kind of one of the first people into the actual camp itself.
I think he would take one of these pieces of castle forged steel where the mark is particularly evident, and he would take that to Wylard probably to show him that. Obviously, I think his degree of worldliness doesn't extend to make his marks of Smith, so he'll seek out. But I mean, their Smith will be back at the Tor itself, so Willard's probably the most knowledgeable person who knows such matters.
So as you like pick up one of these, or two of them even, to show that they all have them, and you're walking back, you can see that like pinned to one of the palisade parts there's a girl. She's got like an arrow through her shoulder and through her gut, but she's not dead. She's like pale and close to it, but she's like breathing sort of quite shallowly, and she like looks up in your direction as you're walking by.
Oh, I think the steel that he's carrying all of a sudden becomes a dead weight in his hands, and he kind of drops it and moves over quickly to take the weight off the arrow, and he'll call out to one of the soldiers he knows. Come here, take a weight. I'll see if I can get her free. And his basic humanity and compassion will help him. I mean, she's obviously not looking like much of a threat at the moment, so
no, definitely not.
He can prise her free from the wall and see what's to be done with this arrow, whether it's he needs to push it through and snap the head and draw it out that way, or...
it's like, so it went through and into the wood behind, through the shoulder. There's also like one in her gut, it looks like, and you think that she's probably going to die from that one. You think it'd be pretty difficult to fix, certainly with no maester here. The maiden chin like runs over to your side and like sees what's going on, and then like draws his own steel, like sort of like, and looks at you. Kill her, no?
Oh, I guess she's not long for this world. And I'll probably look down into her face and see if there's any sort of awareness there.
Yeah, she looked quite scared. She's probably younger than you, or your age maybe, and like dressed like an archer. And she just looks quite frightened.
So foolish. There. It's not long now. You'll feel the warmth and the calm come creeping over you. And he will just sort of cradle her a bit and say, any last words for your family, then? Tell me your name and where your home is.
Ella. And she like goes to say something and just like coughs this like hot blood onto your face.
Ella, is it? I think if he thinks she's not long for the world, he'll probably just hold her so she can pass. The foolishness of youth. Obviously, she was told tall tales and brought into these. It seemed like an exciting thing, perhaps the prospect of joining these bandits. If he can, he'll repeat. He'll say, "And where's your family, Ella? Tell me."
She like she's trying to say something starting with an M. You think like Maidenpool, and then she just says, "Ma, where is my mom?"
If watching her eyes and seeing them go kind of a little unfocused, you'll say, "She's right here, Ella. She's right here." And he'll just, unless she has something else to add, he'll just seek to make her passing as comfortable as possible.
Yeah,
with whatever empty words you can offer, clothed in just basic sentiment.
it's the last thing she says, and then she goes pale and falls into sleep, it looks like.
She looks not unlike one of our village girls. Well, there go all of us. And I think he'll pick her up, and if there's a pile of bodies forming, he would lay it down, and then remembering the steel, he would rush off to see if he can get a moment of Willard's time to show him the maker's mark and see if he can recognize anything there.
Yeah, as you like move out of the bandit camp itself towards like the camp that's been set up by Wyrick and Wylard, you'll pass like the pile of bodies which have been stripped naked. Everything's been taken from them, and you'll see like these like neat organized piles of like loot basically that have been taken from them, like suits of chain shirts, leathers, crossbows, short swords, all sorts of things like just like nicely laid in neat piles. Next to this like very unneat pile of bodies. The full accounting is like being done now, and you can see like that there's one of the men, Two Cups, is like standing before Wylard trying to give him like a good list, and he's like been trying to memorize it, and he says 12 suits of chainmail, Lord, 6 chain shirts, and 5 studded leather, 6 heavy crossbows, 15 short bows, 120 bolts and 120 arrows, and 25 short swords, and 25 daggers, and 11 long swords, and 5 battle axes, a morning star, and a warhammer.
Wylard will sit scratching down with the feather at the page, tolling all this. Very good. Have the men take anything from the field of battle as their prize if it exceeds their own current armaments. The rest have it prepared to be taken down to Belfry.
Yes, Lord.
I guess we can add these to the list, my lord. I'll say, presenting, it's probably a dagger and a short sword. I'll say, my lord, do you recognize this maker's mark? It's a hand with a finger missing.
I'll take one of the blades and lay the others down. I'll nod to Two Cups and say, after you've seen that order given out, go and tell Lord Wyrick and Sir Larence they're needed here.
Yes, Lord.
They look back to the blade and I go, roll a history check or investigation check.
I think history, yeah.
Okay. 17 on the die plus 0. 17.
So, I mean, you're not an expert in like blacksmithing, but you think that the smithers in the north tend to just put their name or like something that identifies them. This seems a bit more esoteric and weird, so you think it's probably either southern or not from Westeros.
I think of the skeletal hand of drums, sword, and wonder if it's crafted from the iron of the Iron Islands. Does it look any resemblance to the armaments we would have ripped off those foes weeks back?
Probably this is better quality.
I see. So perhaps more than Iron Islands, I would suspect, or something further south.
Yeah, you think maybe like, so I mean, Iron Islands is also very possible if like they were well funded. Like those Ironborn who had come were, you know, a raiding crew and they weren't super wealthy. But this is like good equipment, like it's castle forged and like well made. And they're crossbows here, like flat bows, which are, you know.
So I think Jeremy's bending over one of the flat bows, and I assume we don't see too many of those.
No, definitely not.
This far north. Well, I ain't seen too many of these around, my lord. Looks like saffron make.
Indeed. And fine things for our own forces to learn to use, I think.
Well, I'll protectively tighten my grip around my bow.
As well, he'll add.
Well, as you say, we can have a look at it, but I don't know. Good for the walls, perhaps.
Indeed. I'm going to go press the prisoners about the origins of this steel, he announces, and we'll like rise up from the tome and close it and leave it for an attendant.
Yeah, Jeremy nod at that, and perhaps he's going to go and see what stories their food and other kind of the kind of, what would you say, less eye-catching supplies may tell a tale of their origin. But he'll just busy himself about the camp, helping out with what needs to.
Wyrick and Larence, like you're looking at this, what in every sense is a decisive, if not heroic, victory that you've won here. You've 3 dead compared to their, 2 dozen. And you have a couple of wounded, but like by all accounts, this is like a very impressive victory that's gone very, very, very well for you. And you can like look at the sort of artifice of all of the men who are like now under Wylard's sort of urging, sort of very efficiently dealing with the acquisition of all of the things that are in this camp, including like all of the things that everyone is wearing. There's like also a pile separate to the rest of like rings and like golden teeth or like things like that that have been pulled off dead bodies and are like piled in a different place, which is like a sort of extra money on top that hasn't been counted yet, not fully, but looks like a pretty significant amount too. And so you can see these like piles of equipment and the pile of the dead bodies and all of the men like in pretty good spirits, all things considered.
Larence will actually turn over. Sorry, you go.
No, I just had a question. Are we near Wylard at this time?
Yeah, I think you're all kind of in the same vicinity, like not so far away.
That's cool. I've just had that question. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I think Larence would actually turn to Wyrick and remark similarly and just kind of like shake his head with like a smile on his face. A couple of weeks ago, we talked to people after the battle about what they thought House Slate would be. They might say that we were doomed, that we were breathing our last breaths of a dying house. If you told them how our fight went today, they would tell you that we made it up. We exaggerated our victory for stories, and just kind of like laugh and shake his head. A remarkable victory and a great improvement, my lord.
I'm glad it is to your liking, Larence. It is to mine. One could argue it is an advantage of our house now that we have no sigil and no words. We cannot be predicted. We've done well here. And with that, Wyrick is going to move towards Wylard, and he's going to say, I trust the accounting goes well.
Complete, my lords. The martial arms are being piled yonder, and now the accounting of food stocks and other wealth and the scouring for any last bits is being conducted. Jeremy has found much and mayhaps more, and he'll hand over one of the blades to each of the men. Or he wouldn't be carrying 3 swords. He'd have one of the guards hand over a sword to each of them for their inspection and prompt an investigation of it, like similar to that he had done, and to say while they're looking at it, I cannot ascertain its origins. There are a few candidates, but this steel is castle forged and far too good for brigands, though I'm sure we're all in agreement now that they are nothing of the sort.
Yeah,
us being from the south, would we have any more idea than Wylard would?
You could try. I think it's like very specific information because like I don't even know how often a knight would look at his sword and be like, oh, that's a maker's mark. Like I feel like that's something that is for blacksmiths so that they can be like, I've made this. So you definitely try and make a history check, but I think it's pretty esoteric information,
Yeah. So I got a 15, but I imagine with that level of strangeness that probably wouldn't net me too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have the similar impression that it's probably not of northern make, and maybe in your time up north you've realised that like northern smiths have the tendency to either just put their name on it or like a rune version of their name on the blade. And like down south you'll have different things. You'll have like some of them quite bawdy or like cheeky, or you'll have just like an anvil with a certain symbol in it. This is unusual. It doesn't seem like it's not the kind of thing you would have picked up in the Riverlands anyway.
Yeah, I think kind of turning the sword kind of over a couple times, looking at like not just the mark but the make of it in general. I think he'd have a better eye for that than he would like the specific symbols. But he'll just kind of furrow his brow and shake his head. Even down south, I haven't seen anything quite like this. It's certainly unique as a mark. If I had to peg it for somewhere, I'd say it's southern make, just by the quality of it, but he'll just kind of shake his head.
We shall have to press the smith of Belfry and of the towns of your domain, my lord. They may know more amongst their trade kith.
Yes, indeed. Also, they have been encamped here for some time. It wouldn't surprise me if they had further stashes about the forest.
Wylard would nod in agreement. When Jeremy returns, I'll have him take men of skill to scour for goat. He doesn't mean goats, but like trails, like bush trails and stuff that men and beasts would make if they were coming in frequency to supply this place. I think that's well, and might if not lead us to further gain, further knowledge.
What of the fox?
She awaits us, my lords.
Well, I am curious to see what she has to say. Shall we?
She will not say it easily, my lord. Nervousness creeping into the tone of his voice.
Is that something you're uncomfortable with, brother?
Not me, my lord.
Yeah, Larence's face will twist into a bit of a grimace as the talk of what will inevitably be quite nasty interrogation begins to come up. But he'll hold his tongue. But the discomfort kind of showing plainly, I imagine.
We have many tasks at hand and need not all be here, he'll say. Awkwardly, I guess. It's not his usual tact to be awkward conversationally, but this doesn't want to prickle anyone's honor or whatnot, but he thinks that it will require nastiness to conduct what's to come and doesn't want to make trouble out of it.
Yeah, Larence, you think back to the tolling of the sort of sept gong, and in the name of the Father I charge thee to be just, in the name of the stranger I charge thee to be merciful. These are ringing through your head at the thought of this impending torture.
Yeah, Larence would, I imagine, it's showing plainly on his face that it's not something that he would ideally like, and he'll look over to Wyrick with just that look of if you tell me to, but otherwise he'll just say, there's still plenty of arms that need to be rounded up, men to be looked after. If you'd prefer, Lord Wyrick, he'll say not more of please don't make me, rather than if you'd prefer, but he'll say, if you prefer, I can tend to the men. Only 3 were lost, but plenty others wounded.
See to them, sir. My thanks. Yes, see to them, sir. And then seek Jeremy, and what we'd spoken of earlier. May see to that if we're kept here over long.
I'll ensure he gets the message. Thank you, my lord.
Thank you, sir. He'll nod in a military fashion, which would be comical, but for his rank, I guess, because hasn't drawn a blade. He'll turn at that back to Wyrick and not say the same question, but look the same question to him.
Wyrick looks as Larence is about to take his leave, and he nods, remembering the words he had said that he would not ask anything of Larence that would cause him dishonor. But he doesn't voice that at all. He just thinks it for a moment. And then he looks at Wylard and he says, perhaps she will speak plainly if we offer her motivation.
We can hope, my lord.
Let us to it. We have much work left to do.
He'll nod in agreement and turn and walk a step or 2 behind his brother into the pavilion or whatever, the canvas dungeon.
Yeah.
Is the 2-armed man that Jeremy spied amongst the prisoners?
Yeah, he was captured as well.
Cool.
There's I think maybe 6 total that were captured.
Okay.
Most of those who went with the Red Fox, like the ones who came out to charge, all of them were slain. They were led by the Crow. They did this suicide charge.
I didn't expect many prisoners because our main weapon was arrows, which aren't conducive to taking prisoners. But I'll keep them all together in the pavilion, so they're all in listening and watching distance of this. It will help trickle down to them.
Forgive me, and also please remind me: did the Crow survive, or was he?
No, he died valiantly trying to do that distracting attack to her south while she scampered down to the north.
That's right. I remembered him charging forward. I just couldn't remember if he'd made it or not. Okay, so he's gone. Okay. So in here is just the soldiers. The Red Fox isn't in here.
Is she in here with the beggar?
Yep. So she'd be in here with the beggar, and then the other 4 who were captured, and then there'd be guards and things. They'd all be bound. I think tied to the central pole that's keeping the canvas up. Because you don't have a proper pavilion or tent here. You weren't anticipating that really. So I think you've stretched some canvas across a half-cut tree.
Or if need be, do this inside their camp.
Yeah, there is a little pavilion set up in there.
Yeah,
that's where we might do it then, hey?
Yeah, I think Wyrick would give a nod, and a pre-discussed order with some of the men would be just wordlessly enter the tent. Some of them with weapons drawn, others with manacles that can transport them under armed guard to that pavilion. Or maybe outside, just in the main courtyard of the Fox's Den or whatever, the main opening of it or whatever, just so we're out in the open, we can surround them, we can intimidate them with our vastly superior numbers. This isn't going to be a private conversation.
As they're dragged out and brought past that pile of corpses, one of the men turns and sees someone there and just begins screaming, and he throws himself on the ground, clawing at the sky with his hands. And won't move, and will soldiers will immediately begin hitting him with the butt of a spear, and beating him on the ground. He just refuses to stand.
I'll just order one of the soldiers to carry him.
Yeah, they'll drag him.
I imagine you have many questions, brother. Would you wish to conduct those separately, taking each man and woman into a separate holding?
No, I think it best to make them compete for the manner of their death, and to avoid agony. Have them all in a group, or brutalize them individually, and the others may give up what those resilients or who resist us will not. And then the business can be done quickly.
Very well. And with that, he's just going to give a nod, and he's going to let you take points to begin with.
I'll string up the beggar amidst the other folk, and have one of the soldiers remove one of his arms, and command him that every time that he begs, to pay him in silver, and once the man's finally dead, take that silver to Belfry for the folk he spied upon and had robbed. And while that is an agonizing ambience, I'll press the Red Fox first before her men, so they can hear what she's brought to them and what her refused terms have led to. And I'll prepare myself whatever verbal spittle she can concoct at this stage.
So the beggar's arm is cut off, and there's a scream of pain. He falls to his knees. I don't know how anyone could not beg for mercy in that situation. So I think he's killed pretty quickly. Well, not pretty quickly, but I don't know how it's possible not to whimper and cry. Particularly, he's not even a fighter. He's just a guy. But she seems unperturbed. She has this defiance in her eye, and even kneeling as she is and bound, she still has that sort of look of to you infuriating smugness.
Give me the name of your paymaster or mistress, and let us end this.
I don't know it.
Who asked you to come here? Who paid you?
Some tall, rough-spoken man, black hair, scar on his lip, paid us up front. Come and harry the Vollen lands.
A northerner? Who was he?
Not a northerner.
Who was he?
I don't know.
Took a job from a man you don't know for silver to go and do this risky business?
Paid up front.
Not very much, he'll say, holding the bag of silver accounted from the battle.
We spent some.
In these lands, I'm sure it was a merry time.
We had It doesn't matter now. It's all over, I suppose.
All you have now is the manner of your death. I'll honor your gods and wishes and have you buried and have you killed swiftly, or torment you for days for the answers I seek.
I don't like kneeling.
Free folk do not kneel. You one of them?
She shrugs.
Don't know?
I don't like to kneel. Can
You're
I
kneeling
stand?
now. I'll step back in case she wants to break my nose with a headbutt, and just say, why not? And like have the guards unmanacle her feet at least so she can stand if she wants to meet her death that way.
Yeah, she stands and seems more comfortable. Inga. My name.
Where are you from?
The north. The actual north. Not this. Climbed over the wall. What have you done?
Beaten you easily.
How much of that was you? Nah. I don't know the man's name. He... dark hair, black, really black. Had the scar on his face. He didn't wear anything, not like the rest of you. Didn't have any... And she like points with her...
Where did this
magical hand.
take place?
The coast. Up.
Beyond the wall?
Yeah.
I find it strange that you wouldn't ask his name or find out any information of this mysterious paymaster. Even if the coin you got was double this, is it enough to climb the wall for? And what use have the free folk of silver?
Adventure. It's exciting. And I'm not... The rest of them aren't my people. They're just people. They were the crow's men. He fancied me. And I led them. And we did well. But here we are. I don't know his name. I think he was Kraken.
He gave you the steel?
He gave us steel, yeah.
The deal sounds too good to be true.
That's what I thought. But then I thought, how can I say no to all this silver and steel to go and do what I want to do anyway? A lot of fighting here with you and your people. It's just the same everywhere. All the same. People who are the same people fighting. But you do it less honestly.
I believe my terms were fair and honest.
Yeah, you offered me death.
You are a criminal in these lands. Do you think that unfair?
Criminal is... I'm a criminal in many lands. I don't want to die. I'd rather fight. If I
And you
came
spent
to
all
you-
these men and denied them the wall in life and caused their death.
They could have done that if they wanted to. I could have surrendered. They didn't. Well, maybe they were scared of the crow. If you kill me, will you bury me?
If that is your wish. Oh, I have a passive perception of 20 now and a passive insight of 15.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to rely on that as my lie detector and to see like tells or ticks.
Yeah, you would notice that like at that last comment about the crow that she would have like sort of glanced in the direction of his body for a second, and there would be some sadness there.
Amongst the manipulation and shield use of his life for her own.
Yep. Yeah, some sort of conflicted like affection there.
Some gross real love.
Yep.
If that's your wish to bury you in the ground, it will be done. If you swear what you've told me is the truth.
Do you have heart
on the old gods?
Here?
If that is your wish, you will be interred at the heart tree.
That would be best.
Brother, a word.
He'll turn and nod and leave the screaming beggar begging and cast down more silver at his bloody feet and leave the pavilion temporarily with Wyrick.
Hideous. And like the other prisoners are like bricking it and they're like looking at like the violence and the horror of it, but she seems totally unconcerned with it.
Yeah, she's just got a good mask still.
Once out of earshot, Wyrick is just going to turn to his brother and he's going to say, the description she gave, that could fit any Ironborn.
Indeed. Or anyone sent to appear so.
True. In which case, might it not serve us to keep her alive? To identify this man. How else will we ever determine who it is?
We must capture, conceal for as long as we can the moment of her death, and let our enemy fear that we will pull more information from our prisoners, let them come to us. We must watch for if they do. I doubt that the Ironborn would pay in steel and silver, that's not the Iron Way, to these folk to harass Volin, who are a puny, pitiful, almost military force that these brigands could well have taken over, let alone needing softening before any kind of invasion from the Ironborn. I'm not convinced what she said is the truth, but I believe it's what she knows.
And what would there be to gain to stoke the fires of war between us and the Ironborn? There's no love lost there already.
No advantage for us to do so. That is why the hand and shield of Drum lays safe for use later, and not shown to give away what needs no more flaring.
What more can we learn from them?
Nothing.
Then let's make it quick.
He'll nod and go inside and order those people to be put to death. And he will take them back in wagons or by mule to be buried at a heart grove, either in Belfry or the Tor.
Yep. She'll stand and like be defiant till the last moment. If you're going to kill her as well, right? Like all of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll like stand there and see it done too. They won't shy away. Like give the command and then leave. I'll watch what's wrought. Let her insult me if that's her wish.
She doesn't seem like insulting. She just seems like resigned, like she's going to die here, so she might as well do it well. And we'll like stand straight to the end. While the other prisoners like are begging, she does not. But quickly they're dealt with, and like you say, dragged away.
That Volantine sword, was that hers, or do we just find that in loot? I'll sport that now. I'll tie that on as she's slain.
Yeah, and she had this like quite nice suit of armor, but it's too small for a man to wear.
But a perfect wedding gift for a noble lady of a martial house.
Certainly could be.
Yeah, I'll have that put in with the other suits to be like clean and beaten by the smiths of Belfry or the Tor, and have the dead here borne up with our own dead to be taken to the Heart Tree, as we observed the funereal rites of our first foe. So we'll do the same for our second. I'll leave the bloody tent to one of our other tasks.
As you're kind of walking around, Godfrey, Volin will like walk up next to you and say, "Ah, my lord, may I have a word?"
Was this to Wylard or Wyrick, sorry?
To you, Willard.
Of course, sir.
He like his jaw is like set, and he seems to be quite nervous or uncomfortable.
Be at peace.
My lord is not a bad man nor a cruel one. He's not incapable and he's not foolish, but he has suffered a hard fate, one of the hardest fates that a lord can suffer, that see his house fall to ruin. And with this bandit problem dealt with, allow him to save face. Allow him to remain Lord Volin. Give him a chance to rebuild here. You'll have an ally in him for the rest of his life, and you'll inherit his domain regardless.
There are other ways to seek redemption and to find honor, even in ailing years. They'll gaze north.
You're right. He's my brother. I hate to see him shamed so. He has had a hard go of it, my lord.
You asking me, Godfrey, to allow him to keep ruling Belfry in this manner?
You will inherit it. He is old. It won't be that much longer. His legacy is important to him.
But he will not accept bannerhood.
Would you?
Never.
He sort of nods. I understand that it's your decision, Lord. I just wanted to say. And I hope I haven't overstepped.
You, forgive me, Godfrey, I do not know the particulars, but you do not, I assume, stand to inherit your brother's hall?
No.
You have forsworn?
Not. I don't, I'm not in the line of inheritance.
I see.
And he sort of like looks at the ground and then back up to you.
Volin will live on, the blood of this lord through his daughter, and if the gods are good, our child. And the name will carry too, and the places will hold their memories with their names.
I hope so, Lord. It's a good name. And he like looks behind you for a second and sees someone like incorrectly carrying a thing, and he like makes some excuse to go and shout at them, as opposed to remain here in this pretty uncomfortable for him conversation.
I think I'll go to find Wyrick in that and relay what he had said, and seek his counsel on it while we walk to either find Jeremy, Larence, or whatever else.
Alfie, you're wandering around. Finally, like back up and around the place, and you see like as you're in the courtyard and you can watch the people training. That Arya comes back with Walla, who is Deran's wife, and a couple of the hunters, and they have like fox pelts with them, as well as like a couple of other things that they've caught along the way. you must have missed this, being sick, but the lords went for a hunt a few days ago, up past the Howling Hills, and Arya went with. And she's back now, and as she like rides in, she sees that you're up and walking, and like looks briefly in your direction, and smiles. But she's like in conversation with Walla, who is she's Deran's wife.
There are strong feelings inside him, and he, it hurts to see her, but he can't avoid running into her, and he's learned to live with, but he's suffering physical pain, but this is hard, and he takes it out on the recruits and gets them working twice as hard and running them twice as brutally through their routines.
Yeah, she you hear like her musical laugh, and it's one of those things where the other person always seems to be doing fine. They're always doing great after a breakup, and you're in hell, and that's exactly what it seems to be like. She's having a great time, it looks like, and she'll bring her horse or give her horse to one of the people, and then kind of walk in towards the Tor itself with Walla.
I've only got one leg, but if any of you weeds think you can take me anyway, have a go. The first to knock me off my feet, get this silver coin. Silver stack.
Yeah, she stops and has a look to see what happens, and one of the boys lowers his stance a little bit and thinks he might be able to do it now that you've got the one leg, and he's going to rush forward and try and go for you on the side of your bad leg and see if he can knock you down. So if you want to make an athletics check.
I'm going to rage.
That makes sense to me. Your DC is a 12.
I get a 22.
Yeah, so he rushes forward and he tries to take advantage of the fact that you've got a bad leg, and he you can see it's a smart move considering he's only a teenager. He tries to go for that side, but you're easily able to grab him by the scruff and just fling him away into the muck. And there's a cheer from some of the others who are watching, and they'll all kind of start trying to have a go. So we'll do one more. Another guy is coming behind you, and you can as you're throwing that one away, you can hear the squelch of him coming up behind you in the muck.
Well done, working together. I like that. 18.
Yeah, it's a 7 from this boy. Nowhere near you. He rushes and tries to get close, but you're able to swing your elbow back and catch him in the shoulder and knocks him down into the muck behind you.
Are the rest of you too scared?
You can see the circle around, and two of them look at each other for a second before with their practice sticks moving forward at the same time to come at you from two different sides.
Okay.
And one of them's going to try and basically hit you in the ankle with the stick with advantage, and you can make an athletics in response, and we'll see what happens. 18.
9.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the two of them rush up, and you're trying to keep an eye on both of them, and as you turn to block one of the strikes, the other one takes the stick and pokes it into your ankle, and the pain is blinding. Yeah. And he goes to cheer and then realizes what he's done, make you very angry and hurt you, and then immediately just his face drops and he's not really sure what to do next. And he backs away pretty quickly, as does the other one. And the adults around the circle, some of the other warriors, can see that this is maybe getting out of hand and you might hurt one of the boys. And so you can see two of the grown men sort of stepping forward and being all right, Alfie, all right, you've shown them what's up.
You've done well. Working together, that's the way to do it. Here, take this silver coin. You deserved it. Share it between you. Buy yourself an extra bit of food at the table or whatever you want. And the rest of you, start working as a team like these. Working together brings results.
Yes, Lord.
I see you.
And you see the one who got the coin, like, say thank you. And you can sense that he wants to apologize, like he's done something bad, even though like he's done what you asked him to do. But he still like went for your weak spot, and maybe he feels a little bit dodgy about that. But nonetheless, he like takes the coin.
Don't apologize to me. Apologize to Master Timon. He's the one who, Master Timon. He'll be the one who's after your guts.
Oh no. He like looks quite nervous at the prospect of like the gaunt, pale, black robed maester, who maybe is even a scarier figure in some ways than you to them. But yeah, do you want to try and speak with Arya?
No, he'll have been trying to avoid looking at. He'll have given his nod and salute, then he'll try and avoid looking at her for the rest of the encounter as much as possible.
Okay. So yeah, she'll go inside with Walla, like a lingering look over her shoulder as she goes back inside. Jeremy, you've been told to search for these like goat tracks and things like that, paths and things through the woods where these people would have been supplied. And I guess you would have gathered like a couple of other reliables and like sent them out in different directions. Would that be your plan? Kind of like to spread out and find things?
Yeah, he's happy to get away from the carnage and the kind of stripped bodies and the rough and brutal accounting that follows battle. Wondering if such a thing will ever become normal. Yeah, I think he had a quick exploration of like the perimeter when he first came up there, but so now that they've spent a bit of time up there surrounding the place, they've probably got a better idea of where paths could go. But I know we've got the basic cart track anyway, which I assume ties in with some kind of main thoroughfare. So yeah, just seeing if there's any other paths than the one that led up the cliff face. Which could be like animal tracks.
Yep. So like you send all the boys in different directions, and you yourself like spend some time wandering through the woods up here. They're quite thick, the forests, and here and there sort of you'll see like the occasional ironwood like towering above the other trees, and like following when you get to one, like seeing where the next one is and like following that sort of approach, seeing if you can find a grove, and like looking out for animal tracks and things like that. It's not like very heavily or like very clear here. There's not too many paths and tracks. You do notice though that like you could have a field day here hunting. It's like not very heavily depopulated, which you think must be like is unusual considering people were camping here. So they're obviously being fed from somewhere as well. Like they weren't even hunting here. So you think like, you and the boys, if you like spent some time here, would like really clean up in terms of like catching game and things like that.
Good rich lands. What do you think, Arthur? We could set this place up as a hunting camp. Yeah, he'll briefly discuss the idea with Otto when they catch up. But yeah, if he doesn't find any paths of a particular that would denote some kind of traffic with another third party, he would probably return with that most useful information that they could definitely add to the winter stores if they were to set up a hunting camp here for some time.
You do like as you and Otter like meet up, you find like a trail and it kind of like winds through and around this like gigantic ironwood tree and then down into like this it's not quite a lake, like a pond. There's a waterfall like coming from a cliff above, and like it's idyllic, beautiful. Like the water is crystal clear, and these big fish in the pond or in the lake. And it's like quiet and very peaceful. And it feels old, this place, like the waterfall and the noise of it. And there's like this stream that like flows out from it. As you kind of like take this all in and you like follow the look of the stream and the root of it, you can like look up and see that there's a weirwood across the stream. Like ancient weirwood in like with full leaves, blood red, and the face is carved in this like stern, brutal aspect, as like most of them are. And the red sap is like running from its eyes and from its mouth, and the wind is blowing towards you, into your face. It's cold.
Yeah, I think he'll stand there and taking in this grim visage. He'll also feel the wind pick up, carrying the rustle of leaves from afar, coming closer. And almost feel as he kind of a crease on his forehead and a certain set to his shoulders will loosen as the wind, he almost feels it blow through him and carry such cares that have been weighing him down away, up and off into the heights beyond, as they drop away to the coast. And I think this is quite a precious place, and you'll drink in the silence and the reverie here. And making his way up to the tree, he'll
So,
if it does have an open mouth, he would look to see if anybody's been making offerings here.
there's like something you'll notice before you like cross. You'll have to cross the stream to get to there, and like as you get a little bit closer, you can see like what you thought was this like hillock in front of it moves just ever so slightly, and as the wind changes, it moves and stands, and the otter like just stops, and your hound stops, and his hound stops, and he like puts his hand on your shoulder and like pulls you back very, very slowly. It's a wolf. It's a really big wolf. It's a dire wolf. It's like the size of a pony, easily. And it's like it was sitting before this weirwood, like curled up in front of it, and like its fur is like sort of a darkish grey with this tinge of green. It must be old. And as it like the wind changes and it turns and stands, you can see that it's got this one eye, this golden eye, and it looks across the stream at you and the two hounds and the otter.
Yeah, I think one hand goes down to his hound, which already is probably backing away out of instinct, like perhaps the hair along its back rising up. And Jeremy will feel that too, as this strange, almost out-of-body feeling of otherworldliness and the reverence of this place, and sort of trusting to the sanctity of the grove and perhaps whatever almost intangible line is carved by this stream between him and the wolf. He would sort of adopt a passive pose and begin to sort of retreat back, so as not to threaten this wolf in any way, and see what way this situation's going to develop.
Yeah, it like moves to like the edge of the stream. Its legs are like unusually long. It's like all out of proportion for a wolf. Like you've never seen a dire wolf before. They're really just stories, I think. And like this is definitely one of them. Like so huge, bigger than you thought an animal could be. Really, like it's as big as a bear easily. And it like moves to like the edge of the stream and then just like sits. and like turns its head to the side in that way that like dogs do when they're trying to listen to a command or like try and hear something when you're shouting at them or telling them something. It doesn't seem to be like particularly aggressive. It's only got the one eye, and it definitely is like very heavily scarred. But even so, it like looks, and then like, and the otter says, "Food, give it food. That's what I did last time."
Well, you said that these hunting lands were rich, but I'm not sure. Are we carrying anything other than rations, I guess?
I would have made the assumption that you would like at least got a rabbit or something on the way. You've been, you know, around for a while.
Oh, definitely. He'll reach for a rabbit, and then perhaps he has a brace, actually. So remembering back to Otto's story of 2 rabbits, he doesn't want to err on the side of caution, so he actually will lay out 3 rabbits on a flat stone near the stream, and then kind of back away, I guess, and maybe sort of behind a tree, so that he's just sort of peeking out where he's captivated by this by the vision of this creature, which seems to hint at worlds beyond worlds almost, or it's that part of nature that he's known always lurks there beyond the firelight, or he hears in the night, or he sees a track, something at the edge of waking and dreaming, and he'll wait to see if the sacrifice is taken up.
Yeah, it walks across the water. Sorry, through the water, not across the water. Through the water, without any sort of concern for the cold, and out the other side, and like picks up the first rabbit and just like flings it up into the air, and like whole just devours it, and then the second, and then picks up the third in its mouth, and like scans the tree line, and just makes this like brief bit of eye contact, before then turning, crossing the stream, and like going into the darkness beyond, in the woods there.
Yeah, Jeremy just slowly, once it's disappeared, and then once any hint of sound has escaped and its presence has truly departed, he'll just kind of glance to the side to Otter and say, "You said he had white fur."
It was snowing.
And letting that hang there for a minute.
Like, it's clear to you that Otter has never seen this wolf before. Like, from the way that he's reacting, like he has not seen this wolf before. He thought he made that up, and so he is like shocked beyond shocked.
Oh, one eye, eh? Well, this is a precious place, to be sure.
It's a God's
and
wood.
then, yeah, and I think you'll look down at the last rabbit, and maybe jumping from rock to rock, he would place that last rabbit reverentially in the weirwood tree, and seal this memory away as some kind of cleansing, affirming experience after just kind of the butchery and his mind will go to the flat bow with its kind of ruthless efficiency, and that's a good metaphor for the way the battle went before, and bending to drink from the cool waters, he would move with Otter back towards the camp to join them once again, and relay what information they've found. Of course, not speaking of one eye. But yeah, he would move back towards joining his companions.
So there's this moment when you like place the rabbit into the werewolf's mouth, that the wind like picks up, and you know, part of you feels like that's a coincidence, but part of you feels like this is ordained or like deliberate, or like something is doing it. The wind like picks up pretty dramatically, and like the trees around sort of like sway just a little bit, and this like branch falls from the weirwood, and like rather than like clattering, like falls into the soft earth underneath this like weirwood branch.
Yeah, I don't think Jeremy believes in coincidences. It's just one thing following another, and there's a thread, like a stream, flowing from each. And I think, trailing one hand against the trunk itself, he looks up into that stern face and a crooked smile, and he'll go to this limb down on one knee and spy a shape therein. Would you look at that, Otter? Could you see it?
He looks like he has seen like a god in person. Like this is so profound to him. Like he, and so he like looks at the branch that like fell for you. It seems like that's a bow.
Oh yes, it's a bow. And yeah, picking up this limb, he would stroke it already. His hand in his mind is a knife, carving away to reveal that secret that's in the wood. That's a message to be revealed by firelight and gentle crafting. And he would make his he would take his leave reverentially from that exquisite place and seek to carry away with him some small amount of its sanctity.
Rad. Okay, so we're going to take like a 3-minute smoko break, and then we'll go and talk to Volin and all the rest. Okay. So a little bit of time will go by, and you'll have made it to Belfry. Have like taken the stuff with you in wagons, and like it would have been a bit of an operation getting everything down from there. But like you say, you discovered that path that leads up that's relatively safe, and so can return to the Tower House victorious. The people seem just ecstatic to see everyone return, and like almost no losses. And no Volon men died, which, you know, is good for them, but maybe makes you think. But nonetheless, you can come back and be brought into the hall itself. Lord Volon was with you and will like see that everyone has time to like get cleaned up, and we'll have like baths drawn and things like that for anyone who wants it. With the hope of like celebrating tonight, but after like if you wanted to do that, you could do so, like wash after the battle, but like mid-afternoon or like early evening, he'll gather with you, Lord Wyrick and Wylard and anyone else that you want to bring, and Godfrey will be there as well, sort of in his study up one of the flights of stairs in the Tower House, and like sit to discuss. And he'll say, thank you, dear friends. With this dealt with, I'll be able to regain control of my lands and begin to pay you back for your help. This is a concerted attack. I don't know who by, but this is very troubling.
I would, or rather Wyrick would, ensure that I think most of us would be present. Yeah, absolutely. I've just read Larence. I would definitely want Larence there. I'm glad to have been introduced to you. Before I continue, actually, Lloyd, this is my first time meeting this man, correct?
He was
I
at
wouldn't
the
have met
battle.
him.
You would have met him at the Foxden. Yeah, he went as well.
Oh, he was there, wasn't he? Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you'd have met him, but like I don't think you would have had a good chat there, you know, because of the situation.
Yes, well, it seems that this has been an effective demonstration of what cooperation can bring in these lands in these troubled times. It is clear that you have an enemy, and they've made one of us too.
Ironborn. He like shakes his head like he doesn't quite get it. So they don't pay.
No, my brother rightly pointed out that this is not the Iron Way.
Then who?
Someone who wishes to undermine you. Can you not think of anyone? For we know not. And the Red Fox was not particularly well informed.
We have good relations with our neighbours. And he's sort of like staring like out the window, like thinking. And you'd think like you, Wylard, would think that he's not. He thinks he has really good relations with his neighbours. Like he's worked on that. And so he's not like being deceptive here.
But is he being deluded? That's what I'd like to try and tell, if that's all right. Like, am I picking this up? Does he think that he has great relations when actually his ruin has actually brought about quite a sullied reputation with his neighbours, perhaps?
That's entirely possible. Yeah, I think like reputation-wise, he's not well known. You know, like they're a small house, not a powerful house. But you know, he obviously has worked, and he would be like quite friendly with, would have been very friendly with your father, and like the alliance there is like pretty strong, and you would think he would have, like, because he's quite weak, done a lot of that sort of diplomatizing and trying to make friends rather than strong arming, you know.
Yeah, of course. Now, knowing that Wylard has obviously been putting in the legwork over here in his absence, he's going to look to his brother and say, my lord brother has terms and arrangements which he has assured me he has planned to the best of his ability, and he would like to put to you. Brother, if you would like to open this discussion.
My lord, true to my word, the brigands of your holdfast have now been dealt with, and the people here now safe from crime. I have passed your terms unto my brother, and we've consulted and believe we could come to agreement, a marriage between our houses.
I agree. I think that is a fine idea. The terms that I set out are acceptable, that this castle remains Belfry in name, and the banner of the Shadowcat remains. That the second son of House Slate will take this as his seat. And that the first new...
To that, my lord, I shall take this seat, not my elder Deran. As is fitting, for I am the one to marry, nay?
Yes. Yes, I suppose it is.
Sorry to interrupt. Does he look annoyed by that?
Not annoyed, like sort of like it's lesser, and not like that Wylard is like lesser than Deran, but it's like in terms of like hierarchy of the family, you know, like it does go in order of like first, second, third son, you know.
Wyrick is just simply sat watching Volin because he's waiting for any kind of objection, essentially, considering they have considerable leverage over doing him quite a big favor, you know. So he's just quietly watching for any signs of that. But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's actually fourth son, actually, because the third son is up at the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there would be a little bit of like, oh, okay, like not second son, like I had asked. Because to him, it's like, this is a castle, and it's his castle, and it's a big deal, and so your impression is definitely that he would think like, well, the second son of House Slate can have this as his castle, you know? But he sort of like mulls it over for a second and then like nods. And that the first son born to each new Lord of Belfry will be named Volin?
Lord Slate.
Yes.
I will take your arms if it's acceptable, Lord, and sport them as my own, as is fitting to marry the heir of your house.
He nods. I'll be happy for you to marry my daughter. She's a good woman and very intelligent, and I think the two of you may even share some measure of happiness together.
We'll share whatever comes, my lord, happiness and all else. And to the matter of the dowry, you spoke of these lands and this hall. But I would have it that you stay here and assist me in rulership of this place. Together, our families combine.
He was not expecting that, and you can tell that. And he's like, there's like this joy that comes over him. And Godfrey Volin like looks at you with this like quiet thank you, and he nods. That is kind of you.
He'll nod and smile. The rest of these terms are agreeable, my lords?
Agreeable to me, certainly. Yeah, and Godfrey nods as well.
It seems then...
to...
sorry, it's just where we'll just say it seems then that arrangements have been made clear and are agreed upon.
So it seems. A joyous day. Marriage to follow. I would say... Well, your castle is somewhat grander, no?
And this castle shares many advantages.
Where will we celebrate? Where will we... and you think he's angling not to have it here because he'd have to pay for it all?
He's already paid for it all, with it all.
Yeah.
So Blackmere Tor is fine enough place. We will have the ladies of our houses consider things further from now, but let us drink to the valiant dead
Agreed.
and toast to our agreement.
Yeah, he'll like bring out some of the good mead and have it poured for everyone, and then we'll cheers and toast to the valiant dead.
We'll have that written out and thank him while we drink and feast, but nothing obscene. He's like, he has a little store anyway, and we're on the march, so. But something at least appropriate. And then I would seek the counsel of Wyrick and Larence after, in the evening, maybe at the camp or like patrolling about the place on our wait for Jeremy's return, to see what they think of it. They didn't speak at the council, but doesn't mean that they might not have thoughts.
Yeah, once they're free from the the meat and the celebration, and from the Lord Valen, Larence will kind of bite at his own lip. I don't mean to damper any celebratory atmosphere. He'll kind of like nod over, and then like seeing, I imagine both Wylard and Wyrick are fairly stoic, anyways. That it's celebratory anymore with Valen not here. He'll just kind of laugh to himself. This place, whoever hired these people, I don't think they're Ironborn. I agree. It's not like them to do this, or at least it would be very out of character. Once they realize that their people are no longer here, they'll find new means. If it's worth hiring wildlings with great silver, great steel to come here, whatever they want, probably the ironwood, they still want it, and they'll still try to get it if they can. We'll need to make sure that this place is up to whatever might come.
Willard nods, sharing those concerns. Our forces, still green, will be stretched further by the acquisition of this land and Lord Holt's to come, but it will also add more risk for the enemy to chance it for their reward. They've been bested once here with this costly endeavour to no avail, and in fact we've strengthened these lands against persecution from outside sources. When we swell with Lord Holt's lands, perhaps that may perturb our enemies, though they have paid much already and may pay more. Someone in pursuit of, is it just the ironwood? He leaves the question unanswered.
I don't get it. Whoever's done this, they clearly have some reputation to save, some honor that they can't openly take this place by force, or else they could easily have done so. And I'll just look at the pathetic castle around them.
Indeed.
It's not even a castle. 30 brigands, sellswords even, not brigands, whatever they were. Could have had a good shot of storming this place if they wanted to, and yet they didn't. They played for a long game to try to starve them out, drive them away, to ruin their house before taking what they wanted. I don't understand why, if they needed it so badly, they didn't just take it. Clearly, there's something else at stake. A house nearby that can't be seen as warmongering, an enemy far away that has some honor to hold, and he'll just shrug like he doesn't have the tactical mind for like the political game that Wylard and Wyrick do.
The fact that this is a hidden endeavor speaks volumes, perhaps. The fact that they would want this to be done legally and under the eyes of all who dwell within this area.
The people behind this must then have wished at an endgame to have both the Volans die from this strangulation by a brigand, or do this and wait till the Lord is dead and then press a marriage claim to Tyra, the inheritor. But like Larence said, they could have just struck and killed him in an attack, so little as his military force, if that were to be the case. So it seems they're just strangulating the place till they're too weak to do anything, and then they die and they go back to the Starks. What good is that to anyone but the Starks?
And if the Starks wanted it, the Starks would take it. They wouldn't play games like this.
The Starks could take this place with a dozen mounted men. Well, could have. He looks around at the 60-plus armored troop. But yeah, a curious thing, this strangulation. I don't know. I don't even know if I believe that it is the Kraken who paid these people. Either way, it seems it will be our problem now, and I think that for the better than to have our unwitting and defenseless neighbours be the target of encroachment by what are obviously enemies. Their conduct has proved that. We must consider this faceless perpetrator our enemy and rival.
Perhaps they meant to weaken this place on purpose to then force some sort of poor exchange, some sort of trade agreement, or barter a deal with them, knowing that their backs would be against the wall, that they would have no choice but to accept bad terms. Is there anyone who has been in conversation with the Lord Valen here about anything like that that might be cause for pressing?
Whitehill's the closest of houses interested in the ancient wood. She would stand to gain by stepping in at the last to financially assist him, and then take the ironwood to capitalise upon it, what their house has already spent all of. But it does no good to us, I think, to reveal any of this, whether it is Ironborn or Northerner or someone else. Let the enemy know not what we know.
Then how do we reveal them? I like to see my enemy across the battlefield, or under a peace branch, or across the drinking hall.
We'll have to lay a trap, my lords.
Well, with your new visage as a Shadowcat, that should come naturally to you, brother. And give you a smile.
Let us hope that the enemy does not press this issue in Volan lands further. But if they do, let us be prepared for it. We should not disperse all of our host from this place.
Agreed. But in the
Yes,
meantime...
with us here now. There you go.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if with us here now in store, and I'm sure news of the alliance of the house not far behind, they'll have to be more bold if they wish to take it, if the ironwood is in fact what they're after, or this land or the loss of its house. They will have no more easy destruction or strangulation. So perhaps we might be able to draw them out. If they want it so badly, they must be bold for it now. Now that there's a house to guard it, who has more than 6 men.
I have a detail that I would have you enact, brother. I would like a report, a full report of all those in the area that have a decent to expert knowledge of ironwood. I want to know its uses. I want to know how it can be used efficiently and quickly.
Finding a
Also
similar finding a similar expert on smithing and the marks of the smiths in Westeros could prove similarly valuable if we can identify where that steel came from.
We should take swords to the various smiths and keep the rest to just keep a clutch upon that steel so we can identify if new stuff comes about the place. And these short swords, so it's okay, I think. And yeah, I think it's good to pursue knowledge of the ironwood, but we'll need men here to do that and to defend it as well.
I would have an inking of the Maker's Mark and have it sent by Raven to the Maester as well, just in case.
Will be done by rider. To that end, we must send a message from Maester Timon to the Citadel, summoning a Maester to Belfry and its rookery, and he'll look at the crooked black tower backlit by the starry grey night.
Yeah, that's definitely something. Like, not having a maester is nuts.
Yeah, that will be. I'm putting that to rise, right? Yeah, it's crazed. Such a resource to use.
I believe we will have been missed by now.
Indeed, I think it's of importance to go back. The messages you brought said that Lord Holt would come to us, and soon we should be there to greet him and not have him wait lest we offend. But I think it prudent I stay with some portion of the host to set things aright before joining you in the tour.
Very good.
Master Snow and 30 men, perhaps.
Yes, see it done. Larence, I would speak with you.
I will see to my duties, my lords, and he'll give a slight bow to both of you, and then go off to the northwest corner of the camp perimeter or watch to just be amongst the men and to be on point for Jeremy's return.
As his brother leaves, Wyrick's going to leave a pause before turning to Larence and giving him a warm but weary smile. There's been a lot to think about over the past couple of days. Larence, I wanted to talk to you about what happened earlier at the Foxden.
Of course, my lord.
I would not have you feel obligated to be involved in any actions of that nature in the future. It is sorry for me to say, but it seems with our enemies enshrouded and in mystery, sometimes such tactics are required.
Yeah, he'll kind of break eye contact for a moment and kind of just look off at nothing in particular and kind of just nod. The games that the lords play can be a messy one. I understand that sometimes certain things are required, but I must confess that I'm glad that such things were not done by my own hands. I'll kind of just think back to the moment in the sept. That said, to any end, I am sworn to you, my sword, my hands, my mind, anything. You can trust that if things need to happen, and that I am the only one able, for whatever reason, that you'll have my full loyalty.
Of that, I've never had any doubt. And you speak of what I require from you. Well, primarily it is this, that you always speak your mind to me, Larence, when such choices have to be made. You always have told me the truth. And I would not have that change, despite our tactics having to change.
Of course, my lord. I would never find it in my heart to lie. And I am grateful that one such in station as yours allows people to speak so freely. If I ever have any earnest complaint of your tactics or of your strategies, you can rest assured that I will bring them to light. Though I imagine in some situations, such as the ones earlier today, it is mostly a difference of morals, not a complaint of strategy. And that is a worry as a knight that I have, that as a lord is less certain. He'll say, like, knowing that in reality you're supposed to, but that, like, no lord actually does.
Yeah. And again, Wyrick directs that warm yet weary smile at you, and he gives you a clap on one of your pauldrons and says, "Now, shall we toast to my brother's betrothal?"
Yeah, Larence will smile at that, the kind of seriousness of the prior conversation washing away. It'll be the dullest and blandest of all wedding ceremonies, I imagine, between the two of them. He'll laugh, but perhaps some celebration, even in some as serious as he is. Perhaps there's some joy in the situation, and he'll like turn along.
Yeah, we'll head back.
Okay. So there's like a silly little feast that happens that evening, celebration. I mean, you would barely call it a feast.
We probably provision most of it.
Yes, most of the food that you're eating would probably be what you took from the bandits, and then the hunting that Jeremy and the Otter and like a couple of other hunters would have done. But nonetheless, it's like pretty pleasant, and like there is a sort of sense of joy in the air. Certainly that Lord Rohar feels. He's extremely like jovial now, and it looks as if like he's even younger somehow. Like the weight of the situation that he was in is somehow gone, and he just like seems a different man in many ways. And so he'll like sing songs into the night and celebrate and will like speak like enthusiastically with you as well. Wylard about like the lands that you're going to be taking a part of, and like telling you of the families that live there and like their stories and their histories and things like that. Whether you want to hear it or not, he will talk at
I
you
do.
in that thing. So yeah, in that sort of excitable like drunk way, like you're my boy now, and let me tell you, that sort of like I take a bullet for you now speech that people do. But yeah, like nothing particularly mental happens. Like it's quite a nice little event. Some of the men will all of the men rather, like when they see you walk by, Wyrick will do a sort of like a cheer and like a nod, and there's a very different vibe after this battle than the last one. The tactics that you used here means that almost none of them died, and like you were clear and direct, and like that is felt definitely by all of the men here, and it's a very different vibe. And yeah, soldiers love victory, that's the big thing, and so there's a lot of joy and a lot of like, that's our lord, that's our guy, you know, sort of enthusiasm that was not the case in the last battle.
Yeah, and he's going to muse on that as he goes about his business. And he thinks about how very different those two approaches were. And the simple fact is that this time he was utilizing those around him, those with expertise in certain matters that he could point in a direction and then work towards, using every single asset to surround the situation as if it were a siege. and bring it to a decisive end. He's pleased to see this reaction. He doesn't take any vanity from it, more just comforted that his men and those behind him are satisfied with the progress that's being made and the rewards they gain in following him. The men would have been given some of, the weaponry that we would have recovered. Men would have been given rewards, small maybe, but rewards for getting pelts of the animals as well on their way here. Particularly making sure that there weren't wolves and things like that. And he's just going about his business, sort of musing on that, really.
Yeah, it's like a nice atmosphere. And there is this like very large banner that hangs above and it's ancient, obviously from when the house was doing better, of these like twin Shadowcats that hangs above the throne, and it's got some sort of, there is a gravitas in this place, Wyrick, that you would feel, I think, but it's very much the sort of gravitas of like a house that once was quite something and now has fallen to almost nothing. And there's probably like some thought both for you and Wylard, like of that this could have been House Slate, like only for you, like House Slate has many children and sons who are like determined and ambitious. Like this could have happened to your house, and it's what happens to thousands of houses all over Westeros, like every day.
Yeah. Being all too familiar at the prospect of his own house falling into oblivion, into obscurity, he gives a gulp looking at the two Shadowcats. And while he's looking at this place, he sees the splendor, but he also sees the dust that hangs upon the corners of the room. He sees the tapestries that would have almost wilted upon the walls, like evidence of genuine physical decay on this place, as well as, metaphysically with their house and their reputation.
Yeah, grim fate that falls upon many houses. Wyrick, you can sort of politely, Wylard, you can politely sort of move Rohar to a different person, and he'll like excitedly start talking to Sir Larence instead, asking him questions about what it's like to be a knight, and like about battles and things like that, and like Godfrey Vol on the other side will like listen sort of intently. He's a little bit interested in like that southern sort of stuff, and you can find Tyra.
She at the feast as well, I assume.
Yeah. Yep. Up at the big table,
he would like
with you and like the lords and stuff like that.
Yeah, he'll offer to take her for a walk.
She like looks down the table and like back. Someone will have to come with us.
Who do you think?
Shrek looks around at like the two men who are warriors that she knows. Who do you think?
Well, for piety, for my mind, my brother or Sir Larence. My brother should be seen and exult in his triumph. And Sir Larence is beset, he says with a wince, looking at Lord Rower and his cups, telling Sir Larence about, oh, you did that in a battle, did you? Well, back, blah, 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 blah.
It's not really on, is it? It's not really appropriate. Like, I know we're going to be married, but we're not married yet.
Who would say anything against it?
She sort of smiles at that. That's true. Yeah, all right. And she'll like go to stand and make her way like down through the hall. It's barely a hall. It's packed beyond belief because it's a small hall at the best of time, and you've like brought everyone inside, and so it's like very busy, very loud. And so she's like squeezing past people and stuff, and like makes her way towards the door and like grabs a cloak.
Yeah, he'll go out to the walls if they've got any, out into the north with her.
Yeah, they have like a palisade.
He'll just follow her wherever she walks and speak to her of what's happened and of what's to come, and ask if it's still fitting if she wishes to come to Blackmere Tor for my brother's wedding.
Yeah. We're going to get married there, are we?
If that's your wish, it is your father's.
Yeah,
But it will be ultimately mine to pay for and organise. So it is yours to say.
I spent a lot of time in this, what could generously be called a castle. I think I'd like to see something else. And I think it might be a little bit fancier if we go to yours.
Cannot leave with my brother's hosts. We'll have to follow some days after, things to set right here and such, and where to see to the wounded and the burials.
What things do you have to set it right?
The wounded, too grievous to walk or ride, must stay here and convalesce. Messengers must be sent, riders with word to the maester, to send word to the citadel that this rookery be in repair and serviced. And then soldiers must be set to prevent brigands coming into the power vacuum left by the death of Fox and Crow. And he begins to realise that he's saying a lot of stuff to her that he, I don't know, not maybe shouldn't, but it's probably a bit boring to her, and kind of stop himself.
I've done a lot of writing of letters and ravens. I can help.
That would be well. Let's go to the rookery.
Ooh, yeah, let's.
I'll just leave it at that, I think.
Yeah. So a couple of days will go by, and the host will gather those who are able to move, and we'll begin the journey back towards Blackmere. Wylard and Tyra will remain here for a few days with Volin, while Jeremy up in the mountains with the otter will turn that Foxden into a Blackmere House Slate outpost. Preparations will begin because House Holt will be visiting, and there's to be a wedding. There's to be 2 weddings. And when you are a little bit strapped for cash, having 2 in the same day is probably the best way to do it. And so I think that's probably the plan, right? To have the 2 weddings happen at the same time and have one big party.
I guess, and I think, we're trying to cut corners without looking like we're cutting corners, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But with that, it would be a bigger celebration. Thus, the affair will be a grander for it, I think, and word will spread of it.
I'm happy to have a low-key, no-stress, Weirwood private wedding, old ways, hardcore old school. Just a thing done, boom, and not to focus on it at all. If that will help, I think it would be kind of cool too to separate it, but not have to dwell or focus on it.
But I would like it known that our influence is spreading across these lands as well. So
yeah, any lords and ladies with sense will see on the map how much we now control after all these marriages, and if they have sense, they'll know already. Yeah,
it's a pretty big jump in terms of House Slate's influence and control. And you can imagine
a lot of maps have to be redrawn.
Yes, you can imagine there'll be a huge influx of ravens, of congratulations, and of what's going on over there. But yeah, so preparations will be made, and so the idea would be that you have a quiet wedding. Was that right, Nico? And you'll have a big showy one, Rob.
Yeah, sure.
You got to have a showy wedding, I think, as the Lord, don't you?
Absolutely, and it, like I say, it sends a message. I would also have the Maester and, in fact, Wylard and anyone else who would want to put their minds to it, actually, to consider what kind of response we'll be sending back to those letters of congratulations. It's an opening of communication with other people, that I like to take advantage of. People just sending us a greeting. It prompts a response. I'd like those responses to be I'd like them to be productive. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can imagine certainly. Like, I mean, are you going to send invitations to other lords to come to the wedding?
Yeah, I think so. I would like people to be there, but that's I guess Wyrick wouldn't actually like it, but sees that it is of importance that happens. So we'll want that. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Right. So preparations are underway then. You've come back and you can speak with Alfie, who has been like out of the loop for I guess like a couple of weeks now, because everyone had to like go up there, do all the fighting, spend a few days there, and like all come back. So I think there's like probably a bit of time gone by, but preparations are definitely underway, and I think they would be underway before you even arrive. Like the sewing of like banners and like the cloak has to be like gotten from wherever the hell they keep it in the castle, to put around her shoulders, and all this preparation is being done, and it's a busy time. Is there anything that you'd like to do, Alfie, before we close out? You're just muted, Caius.
I can't hear him.
No, he's muted.
And I can't. Hey.
Alfie will ride out to the hunting families. He'll head out to visit. Can we do a quick episode of him sort of calling on Grimwells? We'll just do the Grimwells as a sort of example of how he plans for it to go with the others. So he rides out with Jorah, his squire, and 2 of the guards, and having taken some hunting licenses, and he'll ride out and visit the Grimwells first. And a couple of other guards. Master Seth Grimwell, I believe. You won the ram in the wrestling competition. You received my boy Jorah tells me you delivered my message telling you that I would be coming. Am I welcome to come in? I've had a damaged foot, and I could do with sitting down and getting some weight off it for a little bit. Yeah, he'll still on he'll have dismounted and on crutches. He'll be hobbling after him with Jorah at his side, and looking for a place to sit down. The sheep. I'm not a master of sheep, but these look These look fine. These look like fine, healthy beasts. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I say, sort of nodding to them. And if there's a bench or anything to sit down on, I'll lower myself down, wincing, and sort of stretch out my leg and raise it up and raise it onto the bench just to sort of get some of the pressure off it and start massaging my foot. Could I have a mug of your ale or something? When offered, I'll help myself, and then sit back, looking round. They've got quite a reputation as hunters, and I'll see if there are any sort of signs of hanging trophies, hanging meat. Yeah, any sign of a deer, a boar, anything like that? Or okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any rare animals, he'll look around and confirm the kill with them and ask where they got that and get them sort of telling a few stories, hunting stories, um, um, chasing things over lonely moors and you'll have heard that you'll have heard, I'm sure, that the old Lord has died. Old Lord Slate has died, and his eldest, Wyrick, has come up from the south. Nah, he's not as soft as you may think. Did you hear what happened to the Ironborn? Yeah, he's got some iron in him. He's got some slate in him. I think he'll do all right. But he is bringing some of his southern ways with him. Jorah, pull out that scroll. You've been practicing your reading, haven't you? Read through this. Read through that scroll. Tell the Grimwells what it says, and Jorah will pull out a scroll, and I'm just pasting it into the. Oh no! Can you see it in the chat or not? Read that to them. Read that to them. Aegon Targaryen, yes. Paramount. Regional. Oh, yeah, pass it over. You're doing well, but I think we need to keep their interest. Know that to calm the appetite and placate the wrath of our dragons, on whose strength our nation's peace depends, and to ensure the plenty of our hunting grounds against the encroachment of the teeming population, we hereby decree that all land not under the plough, or enclosed by a wall, or within 33 Valyrian yards of a royal road, including the creatures found thereon, be placed under royal protection, according to the following laws and provisions. For those guilty of unlicensed hunting and killing of aurochs, being the favourite prey of Balerion the Dread, the penalty shall be death. For those guilty of the hunting and killing of the bearded stag, the bearded stag, the symbol of, let me see. Oh, I've lost a bit. The symbol of my dear friend. Just give me one moment.
Baratheon?
Yep. Oris Baratheon, the penalty shall be death. For those guilty of hunting of other venison, now this may apply there, being the roe deer, that one, the red deer, the fallow deer, and the elk, the penalty shall be 6 silver stags and the loss of the main hand. For those that hunt the bear, the boar, that doesn't apply to you. For the hunting of wild horses, no. The otter, there's an otter. The penalty shall be 4 silver stags and the loss of the nose for the mink. That's not a mink, is it? Anyway, these are southern laws brought up by southern prices. A bit expensive, I feel, for the north. How do you feel? Well, our Lord, in his wisdom, has brought in new hunting licenses. If all hunting, we have a cut in all animals you'll hunt from now on. All animals that you hunt must be taken, except for you cannot hunt an auroch or a bearded stag, but the rest can be taken to Castle Blackmere or any other appointed Slate representative within 72 hours of its death. The castle shall take the pelt, the loin, and the stake, and the trophy, which are the horns. That you may buy it from us, but we take that part. The rest, the stew meat, the ribs, the liver, the heart, and the remains go to the hunter. You don't have to pay. You won't have to pay for your for what you've already taken. You won't have to pay for what you take from now on. You can carry on hunting, but some of it, and you can salt what you catch at using the castle's own salt. This is the new deal that Lord Wyrick's bringing. Do you accept?
They like look between each other, and then they all just like seemingly at some unknown signal look to Ma, and she like sucks some of the bread from between her teeth.
Alternatively, you could be declared enemy and guilty of poaching. I sent you word that I was coming. They know I'm here. If I go missing, they will find me. They will find the perpetrators.
So we can hunt openly, as long as you bring some of it to the castle.
You bring the dead beast to the castle. We'll cut off the cook and the cook's representatives. We'll cut the loin and take the pelt and the loin and the steak, and you'll get the rest.
That seems fair. Fair enough. I suppose it is the Lord's stuff. You know,
You won't be victimized. It's everyone who's every family, every person who's engaging in hunting will get the same deal. Times change. This is the new law.
It's good of you to come yourself. And we can do that. We'll have to work together, I suppose, in our ways. Now, if you had sent this, and she like points at the boy, would have been a different story, but you've come yourself and we can appreciate that. And so, yeah, we accept.
Good. Then he gets out a scroll and hands it over to them. It's basically a hunting license, saying the deal that I've offered to them, and the same thing. They can salt their meat at the castle's expense, but we get a sizable cut of each thing that they hunt. And if they are found guilty of not delivering up what they've hunted, then we'll take the full. Then they'll be called before the courts.
Yeah, she nods and like puts an X in the place where you point at, but then she spits in her hand and like extends it to you for like a proper agreement.
And having sort of established that, I'll head off on my rounds and establishing a new hunting practices in the north.
Yeah, the reaction is quite similar in most places. They like that you have come, as opposed to like a clerk or like someone like that. They like that like a lord has come himself to like do the speaking and explain it. And yeah, you won't have any families who are like, no way. They all see the necessity of it in a way, and they know that like if war does come and they have to go in the castle, then it's good that there's meat there. So it's a successful day, if not a tiring one. And the hunting licenses are distributed through the land, and preparations are made in Belgrave. Belgrave.
I'll also get one of the
Blackmere.
if I can persuade one of the Grimwell boys to come and train in the castle.
Yeah, what we'll do is he'll come and deliver meat sometime, and then you can chat to him.
Okay.
Yeah. And so preparations are made in Blackmere for the two weddings to come. One rather glorious and showy. Ravens are sent out to nearby lords so that they can come and visit and see the work being done. But we'll see all of that next time. So thanks for watching if you did.